Today James will be reviewing a bunch of Bob Woodward books, which he's been going through, and he'll be eating salmon sandwich with some Thanksgiving sort of stuff, and I'll be having lentils, not salmon sandwich, and peanuts, which not that healthy. I'm gonna have carrot mixed with beet juice. James is just having beet juice, and I guess you may as well go ahead and talk about your Bob Woodward books.
Okay, so there's a sum and substance of all the Bob Woodward books we've got so far from the library. We've got more on order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 Bob Woodward books. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. The sixth, actually, I'm 20 pages short of. This is I'm doing due diligence. 20 pages short of the footnotes, but and then what is it, like maybe 20 pages short on the index. And most people don't go through the index, I do. Okay? Most people don't go through the footnotes. But I do, but I've gone through the body of it, so that's over 400 pages. So, and that's basically in the last day. So I've got them in order, roughly, of publication. This one's a little bit out of order, but so it starts off with the Secret Man. I already reviewed this. This is about Mark Felt. So it's Deep Throat in the Watergate fiasco, whatever you want to call it. This is Shadow. 5 presidents and the legacy of Watergate. So legacy of Watergate, so that's why I led off with this, even though we've reviewed it before. I think we're going to be talking about it a little bit more when we do some more stuff about X-Files, right? So Shadow, the 5 presidents, the legacy of Watergate. Basically, so you can see these presidents. And starting with Jerry Ford, I guess Nixon was dead at this point in time. He should have died of embarrassment. I know I keep using that line, but I invented it, I think, and, well, using it in that sort of context. It's a cliche, but I use it in a non-cliche manner. So Gerald Ford, the flunky, took over from Michigan, I believe, who took over from President Nixon. Jimmy Carter. How soon they forget. The what can I call it? Knowledgeable but stupid ideological flunky who took over, the worst Democratic president, even worse than Lyndon Johnson, I'd have to say. Who's to rule in my lifetime in the United States. Do I have to say anything about Ronald Reagan? Yeah, what a fool. And George Bush, Senior, I'd have to say the most competent. That's not to say he was brilliantly competent. Most competent Republican president during my lifetime. And yeah, from what I can tell, thoroughly incompetent, like every Republican president when it comes to the economy in my lifetime. And that includes Eisenhower, who had 3 recessions in his 8 years. Yes, that's 3 recessions. Check it out if you don't believe me. In his 8 years of rule, or misrule, whatever you want to call it, in Bill Clinton. So, William Jefferson Clinton. So this is basically leading up to Clinton. It's about the Clinton the fiasco with his the scandal about Monica Lewinsky and various indiscretions and things like that. And it's funny, you know, like it's a legacy of Watergate. What the Republicans have been doing is trying to catch Democratic presidents in scandal. You know, hey, Republicans, you idiots, if you're watching, you should be watching. you are thoroughgoing hypocrites. I mean, it's not just that the Democrats, that you have scandals just like the Democrats. Your scandals are way worse! You stupid you're not even oxymorons, you're just morons. You're not sharp.
Okay,
so you're going after Billy Clinton for cheating on his wife. How is that somehow an equivalent to Nixon trying to use the judiciary system, the FBI system, the CIA system? How is that equivalent? You stupid, slimy, hyper hypocrites. That's what you are, because it's not the same thing. You're going after wee little minor indiscretions, peccadillos and stuff like that, and you're selling democracy down the creek. You useless stinkers. What I should have prefaced this whole thing here. This starts off with Nixon, buddy, and it ends up with it ends up with fear. The present flunky that you Republicans have put into power, or allowed to come into power, Donald Trump, Donald Blimp, whatever you want to call him, the big Cheeto. And if I had enough time and energy and patience, I'd want to write a book called How the Republicans Trailer Trash, not just trash, but trailer trash the United States, and then there'd be a footnote, and lost the Cold War into the bargain. So it goes back to 1968. 1968, it took a while, but you guys have just trailer trashed the United States. You've dumbed down the electorate, so Donald Trump, despite how he's made America not great again, but lousy again? No, for the first time. Wow. I mean, the guy's got a recession, depression going, or he did. Lord knows what it's going to be like with this second outbreak, whatever you want to call it. Huge. This looks as though the COVID thing in the United States is going to be worse, maybe even per capita, than the Spanish flu was. Wow. You have to actually work at it. This guy I think he sits in the mirror and says, what sort of dumb thing am I going to not just say, but do today? And then you got huge deficits, a huge debt. Per capita might even be worse than the one after World War II. Understand, the Republicans have been going along, like in 1993. Hey, Billy Clinton, you better balance the budget. The budget that we blew over 12 years of misrule. And then same thing happens. Hey, Obama, in 2009, you'd better balance the budget. You'd better take care of the debt. The debt that we're irresponsible for during the Bush Juniors, Bush baby as I call him, Bush Juniors 8 years of misrule. So the same thing's going to be happening. Hopefully Biden wins the election. You'll get the Republican, hey, Biden, you'd better balance the budget. You'd better pay down the debt that we're responsible for, or irresponsible for the last 4 years. So, you look at this sort of stuff, and, you've kind of got civil war in Michigan now. I don't know what's going to happen in the next 3 months or so till you can punt this guy out, or even afterwards. Once Biden is not a divisive figure. But, do I have to say anything about Trump? But, we could just go down. There's a huge list. I don't want to waste my time. We've only got so much battery juice. You stupid Republicans. David Frum. What did he write? 1994. What was it? Dead right. Dead wrong, you stupid idiot. You're the one who's going wrong. Now saying, disowning Donald Trump. You're responsible more than anyone else, you stupid Republicans, for letting Donald Trump take over the Republican Party. How did that happen? Well, you set up gerrymandering, and you set up computer enumeration, or computer voting, so you guys could cheat on elections. You didn't realize that Putin would do the cheating better than you, or worse than you stupid idiots. David Frum, Canada's vengeance on the United States. I'm amazed the Americans haven't kicked him back to Canada. You know, we'd have to say, we don't want him. He's worse than COVID. David Frum, dead wrong, dead duck wrong. That 1994, dead right. That's when the Tea Party, under naked as a Newt Gingrich, took over. So, Shadow, that's a pretty good thing, because this book is pretty good, because you see how hypocritical the Republicans were, you know. Then we've got the agenda, which was published before the Shadow. It talks about the economic problems that Billy Clinton had in the first couple of years of his rule and stuff like that, where you know, like, he basically had to give up on his left-wing aims, relatively left-wing aims, you know, like healthcare and stuff like that, in order to balance the budget. Why is that? Was that his responsibility? No, it wasn't. It was the Republicans, his predecessor Republicans' responsibility. But he took it on, and he did a reasonably good job of paying off the debt and balancing the budget. Not so good a job of doing stuff, social kind of stuff. Plan of attack. So we've got 3 books here. So Pauline already did something, a predecessor to this one, which was called Bush at War, or something like that, right? Bush Baby at War, it should have been called, that should have been the full title. Bush Baby. Just check out what a Bush Baby looks like, and you'll see, you know, the eyes close together. Bush Babies are nice, though. You know, like in this book, I think they're nice. But, you know, like this is in the epilogue of this book. This is the end of little Bush Baby's regime. And someone just sums up what Bush is like, you know, the cruel jokes about people doing serious presentations, you know, just chuck stuff in and so on and so on. He just says he's a bully. This is a Republican talking about, as I recall, a Republican, part of the administration, talking about George Bush Jr., a bully.
Well, Bush Jr. is a yellow, and yellows are a-holes.
Yeah! Yeah, check that up in
they
your
work
dictionary
really well
of
for
slang and
comedy
euphemism.
or
He's an
whatever,
a-hole.
but-
Yeah, he's a comic kind of figure. So Bush Baby right here. So the only nasty Bush Baby out there.
But you don't want to live with one.
Yeah, especially with one sitting in the White House. At any rate, so Pauline did the one where he kind of handled the war, or Cheney did really, and Rumsfeld. Another book I'd like to write, if I have enough time, energy, is the Imperial Vice Presidency. Now, there's this talk about the Imperial Presidency in the United States since FDR or whatever. And, you know, like it's the Democrats are supposed to be really bad for that. But the real bad ones have been, well, Nixon. He was the only, the real bad imperial president. But you see, he started off, he honed his chops being an imperial vice president during Eisenhower's administration, where Eisenhower went out and golfed, I'm sure poorly, as poorly as he managed troops in the European front during World War II. Check out the Battle of the Bulge and how stupid that guy was. He was responsible for, I don't know how many Allied deaths, soldiers' deaths, how many German soldiers' deaths, and how many deaths of how many Jews, you know, like in the concentration camps. I swear he could have ended that war months earlier if he'd handled the Battle of the Bulge better. Homework assignment: you figure what he did out, what he did wrong, okay? And oh yeah, just German soldiers died. You know, like, were they guilty? I mean, in the defense of Berlin, Hitler was using teenage boys. You know, it's not their responsibility, right? So then we've got the follow-up to Bush at War, which is about Afghanistan. The follow-up to 9/11. Now understand, 9/11. I gather Condoleezza Rice. Was it Condoleezza? No, it's George Tenet. Is he? Yeah, head of the CIA. Warned, idiot. I mean, George Bush Jr. about watch out September 11th. He was given a heads up. And wouldn't you want to watch out for airplanes? You know, yeah. Oh no, yeah, no security here. We're just, you know, I'm not into nation building and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, so the idiot was warned about it. Actually, they were warned that two dudes who were suicide bombers, who were suicide flyers on 9/11, had bought 10 tickets, 5 each. That'd be for the flunkies on each one of their. And you think Bush and company checked it out? All they had to do was check out who these idiots were, and then the whole game would have fallen apart. They would have known, hey, we got to watch out for people, we got to watch out for flights. Why are they buying the flights? Oh, why did those two guys would have gotten flight training, so and they would have been going, how come they were getting trained to fly this stuff, but not take this stuff off or land it? Yeah, that's the way they mishandle it. So, yeah, you know, like Trump, or idiot Bush Jr., who incidentally, before Trump, might have been the worst president of the United States, and they've had some lousy ones since 1912, almost all of them. I mean, Jimmy Carter was better than all of them except maybe Bush Sr. This is all the presidents since 1912. So, you know, you got Warren Gamaliel Harding, who was as corrupt as could be. You got Calvin Coolidge, who looked to have been a narcoleptic.
Really?
Well, he was always falling asleep during important meetings. Oh no, he was just a typical Republican president. You know, like you know, like Bush Jr. I think stayed awake, but he just switched off the brain. Boink! You know, like wake me up when it's over. My eyes are open. But yeah, you know, and Herbert Hoover. What was that his name? Herbert Hoover. Yeah, who you know, like. I'm going to be a little bit crude, but you use a-hole. You know, like for most of his administration, you know, like 29 through 33, you know what? You know, like that full 4 years, 29 to 33. Well, the big depression hit in 29. So what did he do? He sat on his hands for almost 4 years. I don't have to tell you where both his thumbs were. And yes, I am working crude. Okay? So yeah, apparently the guy was educated and all this sort of stuff, but he had trouble applying the education. You know, it's not enough that you have knowledge and stuff like that. You got to apply it. Are you hearing me, Obama? Yeah, you got to apply it. Same thing with Jimmy Carter. Knowledge, all sorts of knowledge. Wow, when these two guys, Obama and Carter, came to foreign policy, wow, their foreign policy was really foreign in the sense of strange. All sorts of stupid things happen. Anyway, yeah, and understand, Obama and Carter better than any president. Obama was even better than any Republican president. So, plan of attack. So this is when these dudes decided to attack Iraq. Did it have to be done? Yes, it did. Newsflash for all you stupid faux lefties out there, it had to be. Here's Saddam Hussein. This is a repeated sound bite. It's a sound chomp, really. Okay? Not a bite. It's the kind of thing a crocodile does, okay? And it's, I was put here, no, I'm not talking now, this
Quoting.
is Saddam Hussein, quoting, quote, I was put here to get rid of Safavids and Jews and flies. Okay, Safavids, for all you faux lefties that don't really read stuff, that's Persians, okay? Now, when people talk that way, they're talking like Hitler. Is it a great thing to just let Hitler sit there and, do do his shtick? Oh, he's not a person of color. That's why you get rid of him. I don't care if a person's a person of color, a white person or whatever, sort of thing. When they talk that way, they've got to be taken down, especially when they're pursuing nuclear weapons.
Okay, I don't think there's many people out there that think that Saddam Hussein was an awesome person and really nice guy and got the...
Oh, there's lots of people who think he should have been left in power.
Well, there are probably a lot of people who wonder why the Americans had to take on that responsibility.
It's mainly because of the French and the Russians. What they were doing was they had a sort of a thing, a very corruptly handled, of course, by the UN, like oil for food. And the oil didn't go for food. It went for palaces and all this kind of stuff. And I think people handling it for the UN were getting kickbacks and all that sort of stuff. So mishandling it. The trouble is the Russians and the French were saying, hey, take sanctions off of Saddam Hussein. So the trouble is, what would have happened when sanctions were taken off? He would have reconstituted his nuclear program. The same program that the Israelis took down, I think it was back in 1980, something like that, when they bombed Saddam Hussein's Osirik nuclear plant. Now, who provided that? Like they didn't, the Iraqis didn't do that by pulling up themselves by their bootstraps. It was provided lock, stock, and barrel by one of those two countries, France or Russia. Which do you think it was?
France.
It was France. Yeah. And guess who was the guy who was spearheading that? And it was, wham, like a real spearheading that thing. Well, it was a guy called Jacques Chirac. And guess who was heading France when France was saying around the time of 2003, take sanctions off? Jacques Chirac. He would have done the same thing. Hey, we will help you out with your nuclear weapons production. Oh, we'll just give you nuclear weapons. That's what he was doing back in 1980. And that's what he would have been doing again. Lord only knows what the Russians would have been doing, because that was Putin. I'm again working crudely, but when you're dealing with Putin, what else can you do? At any rate, yeah, plan of attack. So my criticism of these bozos is their plan, not the attack. The plan was, what they were stuck with was they had to keep Iraq together. Why? Because Iraq was supposed to be a counterweight to Iran. Not the same population, less than half, but keep Iran out of the Middle East. Oh, you see, the trouble is, if you actually set up a democracy, the way Bush and company were at least claiming to set it up, you're going to have the vast majority of the populace Shiite, like the Iranians. You're going to let Iran into Iraq. How is Iraq supposed to be a counterweight to Iran if you've got...
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, that's just
If
not
you
going to
just
work.
know, something about the population of people, their culture, and it helps when you're dealing with foreign policy.
It helps a little bit to know stuff and or be able to apply stuff. I think Condoleezza Rice did she have a PhD? I don't know. She went to Stanford and stuff like that. She had knowledge, but I don't think she was able to apply it terribly well. So Bush Sr. understood this. People were going, why didn't he go back in 1991, why didn't he go and get rid of Saddam? Because if he got rid of Saddam, he'd have to find another Sunni strongman. The Sunni Arabs in Iraq are 20% of the population. That would have to be a dictatorship, and he'd have to find another strongman. Mm-hmm. Now, was Bush a bad guy for doing that, for not taking Saddam down and setting up a democracy? Here's one guy. This is Windwire quoting some other wit. In the Arab world, they believe in democracy, and many do. And what is it? One man, one vote, one time. There are lots of places in the world that believe that. Ultimately, I don't think the Germans really believe in democracy. I don't think the French people really believe in democracy. It's kind of forced on us after World War II. We'll do it, and we'll criticize the Americans for the weakness of their system, but we really don't believe in it.
Yeah, a lot of people believe in democracy as long as it works out for them. So as long as they get the vote and then they can dictate over everyone else, then that's good for them.
Yeah. So the French, they're criticizing the Americans. The Americans have had something like a democracy for over 200 years. I might live to see the 250th anniversary of what they've had, something like democracy. How long have the French had democracy? Since 1958. That's less than I've been alive. That's something like, 64 years or something like that? 62 years. 62 years. And you're criticizing the Americans.
Yeah.
You stupid idiots.
Look up when women got the vote there.
In France. It was after World War II. I think it was 1945. Woo, I'm impressed. Anyway, the plan. What should it have been? And I don't think it would have worked necessarily very well. But split the country up into pieces. And when did I start saying that? Before they went in. Before they went in. It would be like 2002.
Yep. And it might have to be done with the United States.
It might. I kind of wish the Americans would just kick the southeastern states out of the Union. They're useless, on average. There are, of course, people. I ran across a guy from Kentucky who was a lefty, professor here. I hate to think how lefty he was, but he was anti-nukes, all this sort of stuff in the early 80s. He seemed to be a pretty fine guy. He actually read books. I can remember him recommending a novel.
So no, you're not trying